Well, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be back. Today, just taking a look at life in general, right? The mundane, the sacred, the profane, all of it. There's something about all of the various aspects of life that actually create the wholeness that is our life. So when we think about the ways in which we categorize life, right? The separating, the judging, what I perceive as important might be different than what you perceive as important. And so as we look at the ordinary mundane life, I like what I think it's the Buddhists that say, prior to enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. I think sometimes we forget that the mundane is as essential to our experience of our spiritual nature, of our humanity, as any other aspect. And sometimes we think, oh, this part's boring, I don't really want to do it. But the boring, the simple, the regular, the getting up in the morning and brushing our teeth, the going to work, the coming home, the preparing a meal, cleaning house, all the mundane activities, if we can view them in a slightly different way as essential and important, we can begin to create something that's very rewarding rather than going, I don't like this part. The other thing is the perceived sacred. And I remember when I was younger, watching people, getting dressed up and going to church in the morning. And I never did that when I was young. It was not something that my family participated in. So it was, kind of different. I was curious. I was curious about, where everybody would go and why they were doing this. What surprised me, though, is the way in which I perceived it. If you were going to church on Sunday, then you obviously didn't drink, you didn't swear, you never said a bad thing about another person, you would never gossip. Well, that was my perception of the sacred life. And somehow I saw it when I was quite young as probably very boring. Of course, I misunderstood it, what sacred means. However, that was my perception at the time. And then there's the profane or secular, that which is not spiritual, going out dancing, playing a game of cards with friends, inviting a bunch of people over and watching a movie and then having a chit chat and a visit and just doing all kinds of what I would have, when I was younger, called the fun things, right? Those were the ones that were most important to me when I was quite young. But what if all of it matters? What if all of it is what creates the fullness, the wholeness of our being? What if all of it is what creates the beauty and the wonder and the magnificence of life? It's one of the examples I heard was like watercolor painting. And I don't know if any of you have done painting with watercolor, but you add water and you start moving it on the paper. And as the colors touch each other, they blend together. And that's kind of what's going on with this idea of the mundane, the sacred, and the profane, is that there's a blending together that creates the wholeness of who each one of us are. So that's where the masterpiece is. One of the quotes that I came up with, and I can't remember exactly where I got it, but every aspect of life is a sacred expression of spirit. Remember, there's no place where God is not. So if God is everywhere present at all points in space in its entirety, then that means it's right here and that means it's right there. One of the challenges we're faced with, I think, is realizing that we don't have to try to get spiritual. We don't have to work at our spirituality. Spiritual is what we are. There's no way to separate ourselves from that. However, the challenge, I think, as spiritual beings is the human aspect of our being, the part that experiences those bumps in the road, the part that might have an argument with a loved one, the idea of having to do a job on a day when we're feeling less than and not wanting to go. All of these things are creating a life. And so we're being challenged to live in a way that honors all of it, all of it. So you can go out dancing on a Saturday night, or go out for dinner and go to a big fundraiser and have a really good time, maybe even have a glass of wine or two, and come home and wake up the next day and go to church and have this prayerful time of sort of surrendering into that spot that really feels the connection of God, and allowing ourselves to be fully present with that. All of it matters. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So what we're striving to do, or at least what I strive to do in my life, although, I'm generally not perfect, just like the rest of us, what happens is, taking the time to create a bit of a structure that allows me to live as fully as possible who I really am. Okay, who I really am, because all of us wear masks. We'll wear one mask when we meet the in-laws. We'll wear another mask on a first date. We'll wear another mask when we go to church. We'll wear another mask when we, go have a meeting with our boss. There's all of these ways that we show up, and we were trained to do this. As little children, we were often given messages that the way we were being was not right, and that if we would just switch it, then we would be good girls and boys, and then we'd be acceptable. From that messaging, we decided that we should be something other than what we are. So that's the part we need to forget. That's the part we need to train out of us and come to realize that we were created in the image and of the likeness of God, that every single one of us is unique and special. Everyone unique and special. So when we come to understand ourselves from this perspective, what happens is we can begin to shed the veils that would hide the very essence of us, and we would allow our light to shine. We sing that song, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And it seems like a little kid's song or a little Sunday school song, but it's a very profound message. It is essential that each one of us find ourself and give that to the world. We were created in a very special and remarkable way. And the aspects, the energy, the light of God is right here, and it's meant to be given out into the world. But the only way we can do that is to remove all these veils that have been covering who we actually are. People will come to me sometimes and say, well, I don't know what my purpose is. That's because it got hidden. It got hidden because when we were little, we were told, no, that's wrong. No, that's bad. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. No to the other thing. Or I'm so proud of you when you fit into the mold I chose for you. Or I think you're a good girl when you behave in the manner that I said you should, rather than what you really want to. So we're kind of allowing ourselves to redefine what life is. What is a spiritual life? In my mind, a spiritual life, a sacred life, the path of the mystic, is honoring the God self and allowing the ego to take a back seat rather than drive the bus. The ego is limited in what it's capable of doing, knowing, being, but the essence of us is unbound. The essence of us is unlimited. The essence of us already knows who we are and what it is we're capable of. And because we were created by this infinite intelligence, it knew exactly what it was that we would need in order to satisfy and fulfill our destiny, whatever that might be, whatever our gift is that we're bringing to the world right now. We have everything we need to make that happen. Now, where we get tripped up is in the human world, in the physical, in the manifest world, where we look around us and we think, well, I need this, or I wish I was like that, or I compare myself to another person's position, or comparing ourselves to the earnings that somebody makes, or the type of career that they have. We look at, heads of companies as, oh, wow, aren't they amazing? No, they're just like you and me. There's no difference. When we look at each human being on the planet, there are 8 billion people approximately. We take a look at all these people. No one greater or lesser than, whether you're living on the street, homeless and unemployed, or you're the president of one of the world's biggest countries, really, you are the same. Both created, perfect, whole, and complete. Both completely one with God. Why is it that we separate? Why is it that we choose to look at things and go, well, this is important and that's not? We take these different aspects of living and we judge which ones are right, which ones are good, which ones are better. But what if it's all just one thing? What if there is the separation is the illusion that comes out of our fear? So we have an opportunity here, I think. And for me, what I'm striving to do, and I don't do it very well most days, but my striving is to create a morning pattern. Now, we know life gets in the way sometimes, right? It's, we wake up in the morning and our intention is to, have a shower, do a meditation, have a little breakfast, do our morning prayers and reading, and then something happens that bumps up against that. Child gets sick. We get an emergency phone call from a neighbor. We stub our toe in the corner of the bed and choose to curse for a few minutes. Whatever is going on for us, there are interruptions. My dog used to bark a lot, wanting his breakfast as soon as he crawled out of the little mat beside my bed. And so that would take precedence. There's certain things that take precedence. However, nothing is set in stone. There's a part of our journey that requires flexibility. And so although we set an intention to follow a certain pattern, there has to be enough room in that intention for flexibility and possibility. So, I can wake up in the morning and have to deal with a sick child or a pet or just something sort of interrupting the flow. Or I can sit and complain and gripe about it because it interrupted my plan. See, we have to find a way to be in the world that honors everything and every possibility. And I think what's required, and the greatest challenge, is that we're not excited by change, and yet that's the constant. But if we can come to a place of accepting what is, and what is cannot be changed because it's already been created. However, what I think about what is creating the next experience, the next moment. So as I set my plan, so my plan is to get up and to, have a big glass of water, wake up my system, hydrate myself, do my morning prayer. Look at my prayer list, do my morning prayer. Meditation, 20 minutes, half hour, however long it ends up being, time for meditation. Well, then you want to get a workout in. Well, sometimes in order to fulfill all of these things that we want to do, might mean getting up a little bit earlier than normal. But on the day when we don't get it done, here's where the real work comes in. The day when we don't get it done, the day when we show up less than, the day when we judge and criticize ourselves for not being spiritual enough, or being kind enough, or being smart enough, It's in that moment that it's time to really check in. Can I be compassionate with myself? Can I choose to accept that where I am is where I am? That if I've made a mistake, I made a mistake. Anybody ever make a mistake? Yeah. We're making them all the time, and it's fine, because really, is it a mistake or is it just an opportunity? An opportunity to see from a different vantage point, or to view the world in a slightly different way. Or maybe it's an opportunity to practice forgiveness, to forgive ourselves when we haven't shown up as perfectly as we wanted ourselves to be. We were born perfect, whole, and complete. That doesn't mean our behaviors are perfect all the time. Of course they're not. So we just have to go, you know what? I blew it today. And sometimes we do. And being kind and gentle and compassionate with ourselves then is sort of creates the space for us to do that for others as well. I mean, when was the last time somebody annoyed you, but instead of being ticked off at them, you went, whoa, yeah, I've made that mistake before. Or, yeah, I've fallen short a couple times, so let me just forgive them and move on. How we view life, the way we view the world, really does make a difference, not for some of us, but for all of us. And the idea of oneness is a concept that's kind of, I think it's a little bit challenging for us to fully embrace day by day. But when we can do that, it frees us up in such remarkable ways. So if there's only one thing going on, God, and we live, move, and have our being in it, that includes all of it, our personality, our mind, our body, and knowing that we are loved, right? Life loves us, life being God. God loves us. God loves you. God loves you. Did you know that? God loves you. Yeah. With everything you've ever done, with every doubt you've ever had, with every mistake you've ever made. God loves you. That changes the game, because if we know that we are enough, we can move out of our judgment a little bit easier and go, wow, I blew that, or I could have done that better. But I'm going to be compassionate with myself. Rather than judging myself, I'm going to be kind and compassionate. And I'm going to do that for others. When somebody cuts me off in traffic, rather than yelling and hollering and going idiot, to sit back instead and go, wow, well, bless you. And, you know, I've been there. I've done that. Can we be truly, truly kind? When we know and accept ourselves, and we get that feeling of, I am loved, I am lovable, we begin to change the way we show up. There's a confidence that comes with that understanding. There's a new way of viewing ourselves, which then changes the way we show up in the world. And if we think about the law of attraction, the law of attraction is, I will draw into my life exactly what I am, what I think about, what I believe about life. That's what I draw to me. So what is it that's happening in your life? And if there's an area that feels a little bit off at the moment, rather than judging it or separating from it or trying to make it go away, if we just put our awareness on it, what happens is we begin to see what it is we really believe. And if that's an experience we don't want to have anymore, rather than resist the experience, we go into our own consciousness and love ourselves back to that place of understanding our wholeness, our enoughness. We're living in a world right now that kind of appears pretty bad. And it can be very tempting to choose sides. I'm for this or I'm for that. Oh, you're for that? Well, I don't like you then, or I don't agree with you, or you're wrong. Or we can go to a place of going, what if all of it is happening within God, not outside of, not different than, but in it. And all of it is serving some kind of purpose for whoever. And what if in my own heart, I could just know peace, love, and well-being for all life? What if I begin within myself, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world? Law of attraction is exact. It can only draw to me who I am. So if I'm living in a place of peace, if I'm living in a place of love and acceptance, what happens is whatever's circling around me begins to match that energy. And when something comes in that is quite different, it isn't even absorbed really, because we see the truth behind it, that this is just a bump in the road. This too shall pass. There becomes a change in our attitude and in our minds about what is possible. And it's really up to each one of us to choose for ourselves. Like when I look at, all of I think there's something like 110 wars going on in the world right now. And if we take a look at every one of those, we will see people on both sides who go, I'm right to believe what I believe. I'm right to think what I'm thinking. I'm doing what's right for me. So rather than me disagreeing with that or deciding who's right and who's wrong, because I don't have enough information for that, I'm going to instead bless life, bless the world that I live in, create an environment of possibility within my own thinking. Because ultimately, if we wanted to see peace on earth tomorrow, the only way that can happen is for individuals to choose to be peaceful in that moment. That's the only way it happens. It doesn't happen because one person decides to be loving and kind and compassionate. It's because all people have chosen it at the exact same moment. When we sing that song, Let There Be Peace on Earth, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. It has to. It's the only place it can begin. We tend to look outside ourselves for answers. They're not there. There's only one thing going on. There's only one of us here. We are all individualized expressions of the one. If we are looking to have a peaceful world, it must begin with me. It must start right where I am. And if I can be that moment by moment, and when I forget, because trust me, I will, when I forget, when something triggers my humanness, my ego self to be frustrated or annoyed, then it's up to me to be forgiving, to be compassionate to myself. As we love ourselves and find compassion for ourselves and a willingness to show up authentically, we begin to create a world that's safe for others to do the same. And if there's a virus that I'd like to spread, it is the one of kindness and compassion. Now, there's a virus that could be real catchy and could be good for all. What is it we're focusing on? Where is it we're going? What is it that we're seeing? So if we begin to see the perfection at every level, that we allow ourselves to be called into that deeper place where we live fully all of who we are, the sacred, the mundane, the profane, all of it, we allow all of it to be acceptable to us, knowing that all of these aspects make me whole. And then living from there with a place of inclusivity, a place of acceptance of oneness, in beginning to see each of us as a gift. All of a sudden, my curiosity is piqued, my imagination expands, and I find ways to connect. to connect that creates strength and possibility and a world that really is beautiful and loving. I invite you to just check into your daily practice. Are you flexible? Are you comfortable with who you are? Do you enjoy life, your life? I had an interesting awareness a few weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago or so, where I realized I don't do anything for pleasure. Everything I did was work. I would work, 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 work. Why? I love it. So it's easy, do it all the time. And I realized that I wasn't taking time to balance and add pleasure. So I made 3 decisions. And one was to get back to playing piano. I played piano as a teenager. I've not played in 50 years and started taking piano lessons a couple of weeks ago. So that brings me great joy to sit down at the piano and do, half hour of scales or whatever, but it's fun. Taking time to go dancing with my husband. We haven't gone yet, but we will. And the other one is to go to the gym on a regular basis probably every day. These are things I truly love to do that bring me great pleasure. So adding them into my day makes good sense. So I invite you to find ways to balance out your life, to be forgiving when you make a mistake, to make sure you have time for play and time for work, whatever that looks like, and that you find a way to love yourself enough that loving the people around you becomes automatic. That compassion and kindness guide your forward motion. So let's go into meditation. And this meditation is really going to be a oneness type meditation. So I invite you to just sit comfortably. And if you feel okay about it, just closing your eyes. And I invite you just to take a deep breath in and just feel your body relax. One more deep breath, just relaxing a little bit further. And now just let your breath find its natural rhythm. And I want you to repeat in your mind, life loves me. Life loves me. Use that like a mantra. Just repeat it over and over in your mind. Life loves me. God loves me. God loves me just as I am. Repeating that in your mind over and over. God loves me. I love me. I love me just as I am. I love me. I love me just as I am. And allow yourself to repeat that over in your mind. Now taking a deep breath in and just bringing your awareness back to this room. And opening your eyes when you feel ready. So it is.